of our Upside of Failure guest, Steve Dyer. Badimo re tlhokomeleng. That is what it is, and he is in the building. What an honor. Oh, listen, I was just saying to Mr. Steve Dyer off air, I hate interrupting a song because not only are the listeners already halfway through their spiritual journey, I'm also there. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
I am just curious as to where the song takes you every time you perform it.
Look, this song was done, I'm revealing something about my age now,
Yes.
but over 20 years ago. But it still has a special place in my heart. And yeah, it was interesting listening to it now. Because generally, I think when I've released something, then it's done, and then I'm thinking of the next thing.
Yes.
I've just finished a project now, and the thing is that when you're in the recording of it and the mixing and the mastering, it's the most important thing in the world.
Yes.
And when it's finished, it's gone. It's like, what's next?
Yes.
And then the album comes out, and you have to get all excited about it. But yeah, it's so it's bittersweet actually to listen to this now and have sentiment about it, because time has moved on, but I love it. I love it. I felt it.
Outside though of what you're saying, I mean, 2 decades is a long time. You are not the same person at all. From the person who wrote, recorded, and then performed it to promote it, that at some point, what's klapela in English? You get sick of it, almost. I recall, your Mendoza, who would say to me, may his soul rest in peace, he's so sick of Ngalagata, Do you have any songs that you are sick of performing, even though they are a gift? It's the ones that whenever you're on stage, your fans expect to hear that song. But you, like you say, are trying to move on to the next chapter in your journey.
I think the advantage about improvised music is that you can make it different every time.
Oh.
So I wouldn't want, like, if I'm going to play Badimo Ritlokomeleng again, it wouldn't be the same as this, and you have the ability to stretch out and do something different. And I think that's always been important for me. I don't want to be yesterday's man. I want to be in the present. I want to be influenced by people around me and the youth. Thank goodness I've got children to keep me in check. And yeah, it's an ability, if you're talking about improvised music, to take the track in different places every time you perform it.
Are you like, your Miles Davis, where there had to be 3 takes on the album because you just couldn't choose? So which one was the one? Because jazz lends itself that you're never going to get the same thing twice with all the various solos and things. Or are you the type where you say, this is it? Because I know many a musician who's an exceptional perfectionist when it comes to the process, but at the same time, you feed off of one another as musicians in a performance. So how is the recording process for you versus live?
What I find in the recording process is often the first cut is the one.
Right?
Yeah.
Even if with its little mistakes,
Yes.
it's the one.
Yeah, life has imperfection, and that's the challenge as an artist, to try and not get hung up on this little nugget of imperfection where, the overall mood of it is the important thing. And so increasingly, I think, as I age, the more important thing is relaying a sentiment rather than relaying something that's perfect. I mean, my ultimate hero, John Coltrane, apparently he used to record something 30 times, and each take was probably perfect, or in terms of him and his gravitas. but he would strive and strive and strive for more. So I seem to remember, I think it was Count Basie that he did 2 takes of one track.
Yes.
And then after that, they said, hey, let's do another one. And they said, listen, he said, no, we don't want to do another one because you'll be trying to imitate yourself.
Oh, it's almost like picking up the gum off the floor and chewing it again. The flavor's finished by a certain number of takes.
Yeah, and sometimes your subconscious is the most powerful element in the music. And so if you overthink things, then they start becoming stilted and too measured.
Oh, we need to take a break. When we come back, we continue on the upside of failure. Interesting voice note that's come through. Can't wait to play it for you.
702 delivers
on the matters that matter to you.
I'm Nathan Ilunga. I'm Congolese. And one thing I love about 702 is the open line on Clement Manachela's show and the healing hour. Overall, what I like most about the station is the different topic they cover. They broaden your mind and push you to think. They help you to become a critical thinker. So that's why I listen to 702.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
so we can deliver more on what matters to you.
702 listens.
Let's walk the talk.
Don't miss the remarkable, versatile, and world-renowned Buscade Soweto String Ensemble at its annual performance featuring a wide range of popular music favorites from classical to amapiano. These young musicians will be joined by South Africa's charismatic diva Sibongile Ngoma, singing jazz, blues, and rock songs. The concert takes place at the Linda Auditorium on Sunday, the 3rd of August at 3 p.m. Book now at Quicket. 21 minutes after 2 o'clock, the upside of failure is sitting with Mr. Steve Dyer, award-winning jazz muso saxophonist, as well as a composer. We take your calls with your comments and questions. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. We've got a voice note that I just have to play for us on 072 702 1702.
Afternoon, Relebogile and your guest. If I didn't hear the introduction, I'll believe that the black person was playing. The song sounds, it has African rhythm, so to speak. So if you can ask your guest, Steve, as a white person, where does he? Where did he met the African? Thank you, Relebogile.
Mr. Dyer, is there a little black man living inside of you?
For me, the terms of black and white are kind of problematic because I think I look at big pictures. So I'm an Anglo-African, and that term is not loosely used, but that's something that I believe accurately describes who I am. My father was English, and then on my mother's side, it's some Welsh and some German. So I'm a real mixture, a mongrel. And I think that's good for the human genome because we have a limited gene pool and you need cross-fertilization. Having said that, to answer the question, I was very fortunate when I was younger to play in Tate Jonas Gwangwa's band. The band in Botswana in the exile days called Shakawe. And in the same time, Brahim Masekela was there with his band Kalahari. And all these different bands from South Africa used to come across the border. Bayete, Becky Koza, Philip Tabani, the Elite Swingsters, the Jazz Pioneers, and so it was a real hub of music that couldn't exist in South Africa because of apartheid, but it was free. So I know that all the musicians that used to come out to Botswana in those days, Abo Temba Mkize, Abo Fana Zulu, a lot of them, they really felt that freedom. Brakaya, Mahlangu, They really felt that sense of freedom when they got into Botswana, whereas we were there never knowing if we could really come back. But I was schooled there with Ntate Gwangwa for 3 years. I played with the band, and I really learned that thing of arranging music from, like, what is the bass drum doing? How does that complement with the bass guitar? How does that complement with the rhythms? And he really had a grasp of South African rhythms. He was his cultural roots were in Ndebele, but he knew different. He'll say, okay, this is a Xhosa rhythm, and or else, the Tswana thing. We would always end the show with that track of his Dikgomo Ditsile.
I mean, come on.
So-
That is like iconic. It's an anthem now.
Yeah, it is. So that's where I got schooled, and then I went and stayed in Zimbabwe, and I got schooled in that kind of music. So all of these influences come through to me, and I also feel that some sensibilities come through from my childhood in the Western classical tradition. So I think to be true to yourself as an artist, you have to embrace and imbibe all the different elements that make you who you are. So I'm just trying to be myself in the medium of music.
I love all the influences you speak of. I consider myself a jazz baby just because that's all my parents would play. They may not have been gifted with the fingers for the chords and the vocals for the notes, but they were definitely gifted with the ear
Yes.
for solidly beautiful jazz music. And then you look at the classical, which is quite rigid. Yes, you had some of the composers that would out of nowhere do a quick key change or time signature change mid-song, which made it feel like we're either going into South America or going into Africa. And I'm curious, just in terms of your influences, where you have the discipline of classical, which is phenomenal in itself of doing your scales on the daily, but you also then have the freedom that comes with the improv and jazz, where a song can be 16 minutes long and nobody notices that you've even been going that long. What would you say the gift has been of being able to master both in their unique ways? I mean, there's room for new things, but there is something about knowing a Bach or a Mozart. There is something about knowing a Handel. And I don't find that there are many musicians that have beautifully found that middle ground. I mean, I'll reference Zwai who can switch between anything and everything, from your kwaito to amapiano to straight up classical and orchestration all the way into jazz. But for you, what is the healthy middle, and what would you share you have learned from having experience in both?
Okay. First of all, for clarification, I'm not a master. And
You're a maestro. You're not a master, you're a maestro.
even that term, whenever people come out with that term, I say, yeah, hold on, please. Abdullah Ibrahim in an interview was called a master, and he said he had to go to his spiritual advisor in Japan and say to him, look, these people are calling me a master. What can I do about it? And the advisor said, look, it's good for business. But
I get exactly what you mean.
Yeah, in terms of
from a branding perspective.
Yeah, as soon as you start thinking of yourself as a master and a maestro, where is there to go and grow? And I go and grow every day. To answer your question, in terms of the various different elements that make up the music, maybe the analogy of if you're going to have scrambled egg, you scramble outside of the pan and then you put the egg in the pan, rather than, and this is where I find a lot of these collaborations or cross-cultural work, they don't adequately formulate the content of the music before it's released. So it sounds like contrived. the last thing I want to do is sound contrived or inauthentic. And so I'm just playing and living my life, playing my experiences. And so it's important for me that yes, I will dare and I'll take chances in terms of the way I collate things. And I think that's more and more apparent in the latest album that's due to be released in October. I'm daring myself to make the changes and the collisions, make sense of them, because I think it's also reflective of our life now, where all these cultures and all these ideas are coming up against each other. And the new project is going to be called Multipolar, and that is because we are living in a world now where inevitably centers of power are being distributed across the world. And so even though we're living in very trying times with the last vestiges of colonialism, they are not going to be there for a long time. And we're going to have a world order which is going to be a lot more progressive. And this is my hope and belief.
We continue with the conversation when we come back from the news. It's 2:30. Time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Very good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he does not plan on having two police ministers for a very long time. Today, Ramaphosa oversaw the swearing-in of Professor Feroz Kachalia as minister without a portfolio at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Kachala has now been appointed the acting police minister, while the man he is filling in for, Senzo Mchunu, is on indefinite paid leave of absence following corruption allegations against him. At the same time, members of Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating police corruption are ready to get started as early as next week. The National Assembly ad hoc committee investigating the allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi will meet on Tuesday as it races against time to conclude its work within 3 months. And FlySafair has confirmed that the strike by some of its pilots has now come to an end. This follows the signing of a formal agreement between the airline's management as well as trade union solidarity. FlySafair pilots had called for salary adjustments and an amended roster system with rest times as well as leave benefits. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 3 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you're traveling through Protea Glen, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the N12 westbound between the R554 Abu Bakr Drive and the R558. There's also slow-moving traffic heading into Soweto. That's on the Chris Khani Road opposite Barra Hospital. While if you're heading towards Midrand, that's leaving Sandton. Traffic is heavily backed up on the M1 southbound. That's between Ethel Oaklands and Marlborough Drive. Also in the Kelvin area, we're still dealing with that accident scene, N3 northbound, before the Queen's change, causing huge delays all the way from London Road. Also, there's slow-moving traffic heading into Bedford View. That's coming from the Edenvale area on the R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gililees interchange. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
To every 702 lander who laced up, showed up and walked the talk with us this past Sunday, thank you. The 702 family loved every moment, walking, talking and connecting with you on the route. You made the 2025 702 Walk the Talk one for the books, and we can't wait to do it all again with you next year. Here's to you, 702 landers, and here's to the 2025 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane.
Celebrate Women's Month in style with Hollywood Bets and Spinner Zonke. Take fearless shots at fantastic fortunes with our special selection of fierce female-themed games. Kick back, relax, and entertain yourself with the ultimate slot escape. Let Heart of Rio put you in a carnival mood. Indulge in anime fantasy with Nine Tails, or embark on fire-breathing adventures in Dragon Kingdom. Supercharge your slots and bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008.
Hey besties! Welcome to my kitchen tour, or should I say, my new walk-in wardrobe. Over here, we have the pantry, now home to my jeans and shirts, all color-coded. Oh, and the air fryer, literally the perfect place for my makeup brushes. And who would have thought, the oven is the place to store my handbags.
Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
Did you ever work in the UK? If you did for at least 3 years and you're under 67, you can get a guaranteed UK state pension worth up to 5 million Rand over a typical retirement for just a small payment directly to UK revenue. Most people get 40 Rand back for every Rand they pay in. There's a big queue at UK revenue as this opportunity may end soon, so act fast. Call Extra Pension in Cape Town or see extrapension.com. Mind your UK pension and it'll mind you. Service fees apply.
Elevate your flying experience with Lift Premium. Enjoy even more space, comfort, and convenience with priority boarding, extra baggage allowance, and complimentary lounge access. Visit lift.co.za today.
Coming up
On 702 Drive with John Perlman.
702 Drive is coming up from 3 to 6 p.m. with John Perlman. Happy Friday, John.
Happy Friday to you too. Good afternoon to all our listeners.
What's coming up on your show today?
So there's quite a bit going on. We have a new acting police minister, Professor Feroz Kachalia, sworn in today. We are trying to get him on the show. We'll let you know if we're successful. It being Friday, we have Randall Abrams with Randall's One Song.
Yep.
That's at 10 to 5. We have a song, a book, and a dish. We're going to be talking to rugby commentator Paul Stubbs. Some
Ooh.
people would imagine and say, oh, what a job. Nice and easy to just sit there and talk about the Springboks while they play rugby. Trust me, it is a demanding job. It's one you go through a lot of hoops to just get in the seat. Paul joining us at about 20 to 6. And I'm really looking forward to that. I've enjoyed his work. Kirby Gordon is the chief person communicating for Fly Safair. We'll hear from him about the end of the strike. We'll also hear from Solidarity, the union that has been prosecuting the strike on behalf of the pilots. And then we're going to talk to the organization Jozi My Jozi. They've had a massive cleanup, fix-up in the Ellis Park area. The thing I want to ask them about, though, is they did the same thing last year. And it's admirable work, it's important work, but do you have to do this every year? Because my understanding is you try to fix things in a way that stay fixed, but also that empowers, hopefully, or at the very least, pokes in the ribs and says, hey, to the people who are actually paid to fix the place up. So I think there are a lot of questions. As I say, and I'm repeating myself, it's admirable work, but I'm not sure you can run a city where people come in and kind of fix stuff. People say make everyday Mandela Day, but there are also the days where people ought to just do their jobs. And we'll explore that at 3:25. And then tariffs have kicked in. We've looked at how it affects the citrus sector. We've looked at the automotive sector. The wine industry is facing some serious issues as the Americans pull down the barriers or rather put them up at 30%. For today, at least.
Yep. All right. We'll see how the wine one comes along because that's a big part of our exports and we're doing very well around the world. 702 Drive with John Perlman coming up from 3 to 6 p.m.
702.
the upside of failure.
Proof that a setback can lead to a step forward.
The upside of failure, 22 minutes to 3 o'clock, and we continue with award-winning jazz muso, saxophonist, and composer. Do not call him a master or a maestro. Please, he's too humble for that. 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 702. I can completely respect you saying that because many of the great musicians in particular in creative spaces still practice their scales. I mean, I can reference Mr. Carlo Mombelli, who will say, he still has to keep practicing. And the moment maybe you think of yourself as a maestro or a master, it's almost like the road is done now. Whereas there is so much to continue learning. There are indigenous instruments that people are trying to revive and bring back to life and to compose for. And I believe that there is still so much work to be done. In terms of the lessons you've learned from being a musician, what would you say is the one that you apply to your day-to-day life?
Well, I think that music for me is a way of life and it's not a career. And that's the most important thing that I carry with myself every day. So just as Carlo said, and maybe as you grow older, you have to play more. But I'm practicing. Well, you see, I don't call it practicing now. I try and make it as musical as possible whenever I'm playing. And so it's not a question of just playing scales. It's a question of patterns for me. Patterns are really important and things that I'm really looking at because I think we as humans, we relate to patterns. So in terms of music and in terms of improvised music, sometimes I feel that people are playing to show off what they can do technically on the instrument. But the real great composers, even if they play outside of the tonality, they take the listener there with patterns. And so I recognize that even if I'm playing a pattern that you wouldn't be able to sing, you can hear where it's about to go to.
Yes. Oh, I'm still stealing that. I'm so stealing that. We open up the lines 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Vukile from Bromfontein, go ahead.
How are you? Thank you, Relebogile, for taking my
Yes.
call. Let me tell you something. I've been holding on, I'm listening to my brother, what's being said. That's typical of him. That's typical of him. Down to earth, very humble, very cooperative and everything. I remember when we were in Botswana, what he did for us as a musician and everything. Please, Steve.
Oh, Ntate, unsole teng go Botswana. Okay.
Let me tell you, when I Relebogile, thank you very, very much for hosting Steve. It's long overdue, and ra go leboga thata o le o Relebogile to have Steve there for us. Thank you very much, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Keep all those things you've been doing for us all these years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Ke a leboga, Ntate.
Vugile ra leboga for that call and to explain gore he's a humble man. Jwale Setswana wa se tseba.
Ke a se leka.
Wa se leka. So what about your Prachting de Deutsch?
Prachting de Deutsch, the what? Afrikaans?
No, you're German.
German? No. I know what Uber means.
It's so funny because I have an uncle who has been living in Germany for over 3 decades. His German is pure, but his Setswana is also still pure. And you know they're so happy to be home to only speak Setswana. So I'm going to connect the two of you. He can revive your German and help improve the Setswana.
The German was never there. It was just in the roots.
The roots.
Yes. Way back.
We've got your voice notes, 072 702 and 702.
Sure. I'm really enjoying the show and the talk that you're having with the jazz musician. Wow. It's sure.
Hi, Relebogile. You're speaking to Nesensha in Katlehong. Hey, tell that man I'm humbled. I'm so humbled. You know, when I listened to the song, it just took me through. I was so emotional. And when he mentioned Fana Zulu, then that's my friend from Katlehong. And I knew that, you know what, Radio 702, the best. The best.
How does it make you feel when you get that kind of feedback from people, knowing and understanding how deeply what you do does for them?
Well, you see, Relebogile, when you are playing music, it's not like a carpenter. When you're a carpenter, you can get pieces of wood and you build a chair, and then you say, okay, that's the chair, and its function is for you to sit on. When you create something creative, music, what is it? You can't explain it, and that's the beauty that draws it to me. But when you get somebody, I, for myself, I'm trying to expose the essence of my being, and when someone can respond to it and identify it with and feel it, I'm blessed. I'm really blessed, and so those calls really mean the world to me.
A message says, wow, Relebogile, such an excellent grasp of jazz. I'm impressed. And here I was thinking you were just into acting, etc. I've heard about the legendary Steve Dyer for decades and always wondered what kind of a guy he is. So thank you for this. And then the question is, how did he find working with the late, great Oliver Mtukudzi? And has he ever worked with Ja Praiser of Zimbabwe? That's from Farai.
Oh, I've never worked with Ja Praiser, but I certainly worked with Oliver Mtukudzi. And now we're talking about the upside of failure. Let me tell you a little story.
Yes.
In I think it was 1997, there was a French company called Label Bleu with the guy Christian Mousset, who really loved African music. And at the time, paradoxically now, all Oliver's albums, about 35 or 40 of them at the time, were on vinyl, and he didn't have a CD. So Christian said, no, it's time to make him a CD. And so we were in negotiation with him, and the idea was that we were going to record in South Africa, we were going to send the files over to France, and they were going to mix and do everything there. I can't remember exactly what happened during the process, but we ended up mixing, mastering, doing everything here, and that's, in terms of my producing, not career, my producing part of my music,
yes.
that is the album that really stands out, and that's the Tugu music that has the hits like Todi and all of that. We had no idea when we were doing it that it would be so successful. But my point here is that sometimes necessity is the mother of invention.
Oh.
So we recorded that in Berea, in a small backyard studio, but everything came together. And I'm sorry, France and Christian, and that this was something that was proudly done here.
And isn't it amazing how sometimes the things that look like they're not going well turn out to be the best thing that's ever happened to you?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's you have to roll with the punches.
We've got another voice note, 0727021702. All right, we will get to the voice note. Before we go to another break, I need to know, as the father of Bokani, I've got a 4-year-old. And I know many of my listeners don't know, but I'm a musician actually before anything else.
Oh, okay.
What does it take to raise a muso? And it's I'm sure there's parts, and I'm not sure if this is accurate, but I have parts of me that didn't want my child to be a creative kid because it can be complicated, just the industry and understanding how it is. But at the same time, wanting him to be exposed as much as possible to explore. Now, I can't run away from the fact that he's rhythmically gifted. He sings in key from when he was really young. And now I'm like, how do I make him a musician, a great musician? What tips can you share for the parents without obviously trying to live through your child and impose yourself onto your child?
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, is that, look, you've had your life as a parent. Don't try and live your other life and feel that through your inadequacies, you want to live your life through somebody else, even though it happens to be your kid. They've got their own lives. And so I have 3 kids. 2 of them, there's Bokani, who is really in music. I must say that I never told him go into music because I didn't want him to turn around later and say, "Hey,
"You see?"
Pops, why did you bring me into here?" So it was his choice that he went into it. I think definitely because he was surrounded by music, that was a choice he made. My youngest daughter, Sibusisiwe, is now studying music at Wits. And the same thing, I never told her, please, don't do this. So, and my son Kolani, second born, he decided, he played some drums and then he looked at it and he said, nah. And so he's in sales,
And you said,
marketing.
yes, I got one out.
I say, there's someone that's not, that's someone that's going to be financially independent and can give us some tips on, financial tips.
Yes.
But to get back to you, I think let's, in terms of education, this way that we're educated now, that there's a maths class and a science class and then a music class and then it's all stratified, and that is not the African way. We need much more holistic ways of recognizing learning. So you can be a philosopher and a painter and a musician and a carpenter, whatever you feel. It shouldn't be either or. And so my idea for you and your kid is develop that love, and so you never want him to go to that Western classical piano lesson. Oh, mommy, do I have to go there?
Yes.
I have to, but if he loves music, he's loving something that's beautiful. And so I would encourage him all the way. Tell him maybe not to play jazz. And but yeah, I would encourage him in that score, but as well as encouraging him in other spheres as well.
Do you want to know what the irony is? My parents that wouldn't let me go to art school are the ones who, when he was around 2, say, you don't have a choice here. You can see he's an artist, he's a creator. I'm like, you too, of all people. We'll take another break. When we come back, more of your messages.
A setback can lead to a step forward.
7 minutes to 3 o'clock, the upside of failure. And we are wrapping up our conversation with award-winning jazz musician and saxophonist Steve Dyer. Your calls on 011 30702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. There is a message here which says, what a beautiful interview, laden with pearls of life and wisdom. Even the way Steve speaks and communicates is artistic. From Dr. Philemon Mahuma. Another one says, great musician in studio. Good afternoon. Can Steve tell us about the idea behind the fabulous Mahube album and the people behind the track called Sidiwe in the same album?
Well, Mahube was a collaboration of Southern African musicians. So I had been in Botswana playing kind of Marabi-based music with Brajonis. And then I went to Zimbabwe and I found a much more introspective kind of spiritual leaning of the music towards the Mbira-based, which it has in Shona culture, that spiritualism within it. And then I came back home and I found there's no music of Zimbabwe in here. There's no music of the region. We don't know what's going on, and these are artificially created borders. And so then the idea of Mahube was born. And on the first album we had music predominantly from South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. On the second album, I thought, no, we need some Tswana music. And so Ke Didiwe is a Tswana traditional song that I remember from my time there. And we got Ndingo Joa to sing that song. So yeah, I tried to make it as representative of the region as possible. And when I conceptualized this project, I thought there are going to be so many more that are going to happen after this. But that hasn't really been the case. And I think Mahube, the reason is because the relationships were real. I knew a lot of the musicians for a long time, and we were friends before we decided, okay, let's get together and create something and show that the different music of the region can coalesce into something that that says something for the region as opposed to any specific country within it.
In terms of your master's degree, what happened there?
My master's degree is incomplete, and I don't think it'll be completed. And I wanted to do the subject of the notion of Ubuntu in South African jazz, because everyone talks about South African jazz. It's so different. It's so distinctive. But then when you say, how is it so distinctive? Why is it so distinctive? And for me, I wanted to explore the reason for it being distinctive and different is because the relationships between people are different. And then Ubuntu came into the picture. I was stunted in terms of, I feel that a lot of academia, it concentrates on style over substance. In other words, you have to formulate what you're trying to do in a very specific way. And I feel that academia often protects its own space, and it leaves a lot of creativity. Never mistake intelligence for education, and vice versa. So we need African knowledge systems to come to the fore, and they're not there yet. And so I would say the upside of my not completing the master's is that I've done a whole lot of work on this. It's still my intellectual property. And I came into contact with this amazing Professor Mogobe Ramose. For me, his teachings of Ubuntu are something. Please, can you get him on the station? Because as a lot of...
Did you hear that, Pashida? We're going to get him on the station, and we've run out of time, but I very quickly need to ask in one sentence, what have you learned about failure?
Well, failure causes resilience.
Failure causes
resilience. So when you are faced with failure, you have to be resilient in overcoming it.
Mr. Steve Dyer, I could keep you here for days on end, just talking and getting all the wisdom out of you. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Spend your afternoon
with Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.